The book of Genesis is the first book of the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Old Testament. Its title comes from a Greek word meaning origin or beginning. Genesis introduces the foundational narrative of creation, the emergence of humanity, and the earliest recorded interactions between God and human beings according to ancient scripture. For many centuries, the text of Genesis has been preserved through careful transmission and has been read as sacred history within Jewish and Christian communities. The book provides the opening framework for the entire biblical narrative and establishes themes that continue throughout the rest of Scripture, including divine creation, moral order, responsibility, blessing, judgment, mercy, and covenant. The opening words of Genesis state that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. This statement presents God as existing prior to all created things, and as the source of all that exists. The text describes the earth at this early stage as formless and empty, with darkness covering the surface of the deep waters. The Spirit of God is described as moving over the face of the waters, indicating divine presence before the ordering of creation. Creation begins not through conflict or struggle, but through deliberate divine speech. God speaks, and what is spoken comes into existence. The first act of creation is the creation of light. God says that light should exist, and light comes into being. Light is then separated from darkness. God calls the light day and the darkness night. This act establishes the most basic rhythm of time, defined by alternating periods of light and darkness. The text describes evening and morning as marking the completion of the first day. This pattern of evening and morning continues throughout the creation account, reinforcing the ordered progression of time. On the second day, God creates an expanse to separate the waters. The waters below are separated from the waters above, and the expanse is called sky. This reflects the ancient understanding of the cosmos, in which the sky was seen as a structured space that held back waters above the earth. The separation of waters further organizes creation and prepares the environment for life. Evening and morning mark the completion of the second day. On the third day, God gathers the waters beneath the sky into one place so that dry land may appear. The dry land is called earth, and the gathered waters are called seas. This act creates habitable space. After the land appears, vegetation emerges. The earth produces plants that bear seed and trees that bear fruit according to their kinds. The emphasis on reproduction according to kinds highlights stability and continuity within creation. God sees that this stage of creation is good. Evening and morning mark the third day. On the fourth day, God creates lights in the sky. These lights are given specific purposes. They are to separate day from night, to serve as signs for seasons, days, and years, and to give light upon the earth. The greater light governs the day, and the lesser light governs the night. The stars are also placed in the sky. And this act further establishes order by structuring time and marking cycles that govern agricultural and communal life. God sees that this arrangement is good. Evening and morning mark the fourth day. On the fifth day, God creates living creatures in the waters and birds in the sky. Sea creatures of every kind are formed, along with birds that fly above the earth. These creatures are blessed and instructed to be fruitful and multiply, filling the waters and the skies. This is the first explicit blessing in the creation narrative. God sees that this part of creation is good. Evening and morning mark the fifth day. On the sixth day, God creates land animals. These include livestock, wild animals, and creatures that move along the ground. Each is made according to its kind. After the creation of animals, humanity is created. Humans are described as being made in the image of God. This statement has been understood within Christian tradition as indicating a unique role and dignity within creation. Humanity is described as male and female, and both are included equally in the divine image. Humans are given dominion over the earth and its living creatures, meaning responsibility for care and stewardship. They are blessed and instructed to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and exercise stewardship over it. Plants and fruit are provided as food. God sees that everything created is very good. Evening and morning mark the completion of the sixth day. On the seventh day, God rests from the work of creation. This rest does not indicate weariness, but rather the completion and satisfaction of creation. The seventh day is blessed and made holy. This establishes a pattern of rest that later becomes significant in biblical law and worship. The creation narrative presents a world that is ordered, purposeful, and good, brought into existence through divine will and speech. Genesis then shifts to a more focused account of humanity's beginnings. A garden is planted in a place called Eden. The garden is described as a place of abundance and beauty. Trees that are pleasing to the eye and good for food grow there. A river flows from Eden and divides into 4 rivers, suggesting fertility and life spreading outward. Among the trees are 2 that are specifically named. One is the tree of life, and the other is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The first human is placed in the garden with the responsibility to work it and care for it. This presents work as part of human purpose rather than a punishment. A command is given: the human may eat from any tree in the garden except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eating from that tree is associated with death. This command establishes moral responsibility and the concept of obedience within the human relationship with God. It is stated that it is not good for the human to be alone. A companion is created, the woman is formed, and the relationship between man and woman is described as one of unity and mutual belonging. The text emphasizes that they are not ashamed, indicating a state of innocence and harmony. Humanity at this stage is depicted as living in peace with creation and in direct relationship with God. The narrative then introduces a change in this condition. A serpent appears, described as more crafty than other creatures. The serpent speaks to the woman and challenges the command regarding the forbidden tree. The serpent suggests that eating from the tree will result in knowledge and wisdom rather than death. The woman sees that the fruit is desirable. She eats from it and gives some to the man, who also eats. After this act, their awareness changes. They recognize their nakedness and feel shame. They attempt to cover themselves and hide. When God addresses them, responsibility is shifted. The man points to the woman, and the woman points to the serpent. Consequences follow. The serpent is cursed. Pain enters human experience. Labor becomes difficult. The ground is affected. Humanity is expelled from the garden, and access to the tree of life is restricted. Cherubim are placed to guard the way. This account has traditionally been understood as describing the entrance of sin, suffering, and separation into human history. Life continues outside the garden. Children are born. One becomes a farmer, working the ground. The other becomes a shepherd, tending flocks. Each brings an offering. A conflict arises, and one brother kills the other. This act is described as the first murder. The narrative emphasizes accountability and consequence. The ground is said to be affected by the shedding of blood. The story illustrates the spread of violence following the loss of harmony. Subsequent generations are listed. Humanity increases in number. People settle, build cities, and develop skills. Music, metalworking, and agriculture are mentioned. Despite cultural progress, the text describes increasing moral corruption and violence. Genesis states that human wickedness becomes widespread and that every inclination of the human heart is continually inclined toward evil. God is described as being grieved by the condition of humanity. One man is described as righteous and blameless among his generation. His name is Noah. God instructs Noah to build an ark according to precise measurements. The ark is designed to preserve life during a coming flood. Noah is instructed to bring animals into the ark along with his family. The floodwaters come, covering the earth. Life outside the ark is destroyed. After many days, the waters recede. The ark comes to rest. Noah and his family leave the ark and offer an offering. God promises never again to destroy the earth by flood. A covenant is established with Noah and with all living creatures. The rainbow is given as a sign of this covenant, serving as a reminder of the promise. After the flood, humanity begins again. Noah's descendants spread across the earth. The narrative describes humanity as initially sharing one language. people settle in a plain and build a city with a tower intended to reach the heavens. The text describes the confusion of language and the scattering of people across the earth. This account explains the diversity of languages and nations. The focus of Genesis then narrows to one man named Abram. Abram lives in a land of many peoples and traditions. God calls Abram to leave his homeland and go to a land that will be shown to him. A promise is made that Abram will become the father of a great nation. He is promised land, descendants, and blessing. It is stated that through him all families of the earth will be blessed. Abram obeys and begins a journey that marks a turning point in the biblical narrative. The journey of Abram continues as he travels with his household, his possessions, and those who are associated with him. He moves through regions that are already inhabited, and the text notes the presence of other peoples living in the land at that time. Abram builds altars at various locations, marking places of worship and remembrance. These acts indicate a continuing relationship between Abram and God as he moves through unfamiliar territory. The narrative presents Abram as responding to divine guidance without recorded protest or hesitation, emphasizing obedience and trust as defining characteristics of his life. As Abram settles temporarily in the land, a famine occurs. Because of the lack of food, Abram travels to Egypt. This movement reflects the realities of ancient life, where survival often depended on migration in response to environmental conditions. After a period of time, Abram returns to the land with increased wealth, including livestock and servants. His possessions grow to such an extent that the land can no longer support both Abram and his nephew Lot together. Disputes arise between their herdsmen. Abram proposes a peaceful separation. He allows Lot to choose his portion of the land first. Lot chooses the well-watered plain, while Abram remains in the hill country. After Lot departs, God reiterates the promise to Abram. He is told that the land he sees will be given to him and his descendants. His offspring are described as being as numerous as the dust of the earth. Abram continues to dwell in the land, building altars and maintaining his way of life. These passages reinforce the recurring theme of promise paired with patience, as the fulfillment of these promises is not immediate. The narrative then describes a regional conflict involving several kings. Lot is taken captive during this conflict. Abram gathers a small group of men and pursues the captors. He defeats them and rescues Lot. Upon returning, Abram encounters a priest-king named Melchizedek, who brings bread and wine and blesses Abram. Abram gives a portion of his possessions to Melchizedek. This encounter is brief but significant, presenting Melchizedek as a priest of God Most High and acknowledging divine blessing over Abram's actions. Following these events, God speaks to Abram in a vision. Abram expresses concern that he remains without a biological heir. He notes that his household servant stands to inherit his estate. God responds by stating that Abram's heir will come from his own body. Abram is brought outside and shown the stars. He is told that his descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Abram believes this promise, and it is recorded as righteousness. This moment is traditionally understood as central to the biblical understanding of faith. A covenant ceremony follows. Animals are prepared and divided. As darkness falls, Abram experiences a deep sleep. A smoking firepot and a flaming torch pass between the pieces. God declares the boundaries of the land that will be given to Abram's descendants. The covenant establishes a formal and binding promise, emphasizing that its fulfillment rests on divine commitment. Despite this promise, time passes and Abram and his wife Sarai remain without children. Sarai gives her servant Hagar to Abram, according to the customs of the time, in an attempt to produce an heir. Hagar becomes pregnant. Tension arises between Sarai and Hagar. Hagar flees, but an angel speaks to her and instructs her to return. She is told that her son will be named Ishmael and that he will become the father of a great people. Hagar returns and gives birth to Ishmael. Abram is 86 years old at this time. Years later, God appears again to Abram and establishes a renewed covenant. Abram's name is changed to Abraham, meaning father of many. Sarai's name is changed to Sarah. the promise of descendants is reaffirmed, and the covenant is marked by the sign of circumcision. Abraham is told that Sarah will bear a son. Abraham is advanced in age, and Sarah is past the age of childbearing. Nevertheless, the promise is restated. Ishmael is blessed, but the covenant is said to continue through the son who will be born to Sarah. 3 visitors come to Abraham while he is resting near his tent. Abraham offers hospitality. During their visit, it is again stated that Sarah will have a son. Sarah hears this and laughs quietly to herself. The visitors depart, and the narrative then describes events concerning the cities of the plain. The text portrays widespread corruption in those cities. Abraham speaks with God, asking that the righteous not be destroyed with the wicked. This exchange emphasizes themes of justice and mercy. The cities are ultimately destroyed and Lot is rescued. He and his family flee. His wife looks back and becomes a pillar of salt. Lot's daughters later bear children, and their descendants become neighboring peoples. These accounts explain the origins of various nations known in the ancient world. As promised, Sarah gives birth to a son. He is named Isaac. Abraham is 100 years old at the time of Isaac's birth. Isaac's birth is presented as the fulfillment of long-standing promise. Conflict arises between Sarah and Hagar after Isaac is born. Hagar and Ishmael are sent away, but God provides for them. Ishmael survives and grows, becoming the father of a people. The narrative then recounts a significant event involving Isaac. Abraham is instructed to take Isaac to a mountain and offer him as a sacrifice. Abraham obeys and prepares the altar. At the moment of sacrifice, he is stopped. A ram is provided instead. This event reinforces themes of obedience and divine provision. God reaffirms the covenant, promising that Abraham's descendants will be numerous and that through them blessing will come to all nations. Sarah later dies and is buried. Abraham secures a burial place marking one of the first permanent landholdings associated with the promise. Abraham arranges for Isaac to marry a woman from his extended family. Rebekah becomes Isaac's wife. Abraham eventually dies at an advanced age and is buried beside Sarah. The narrative continues with Isaac. He and Rebekah have 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau is born first, followed by Jacob. Their personalities and roles differ. Esau becomes a hunter while Jacob stays near the household. Esau sells his birthright to Jacob for food. Later, Jacob receives Isaac's blessing through deception. This creates tension between the brothers. Jacob flees and travels to the land of his relatives. On the way, he has a dream of a ladder reaching to heaven, with angels ascending and descending. God reiterates the covenant promises to Jacob. Jacob continues his journey and works for his uncle Laban. He marries Leah and Rachel and fathers 12 sons. These sons become the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. After many years, Jacob returns to his homeland. He prepares to meet Esau, fearing conflict. The meeting is peaceful. Jacob later wrestles with a mysterious figure and receives a new name, Israel. This name becomes associated with his descendants. The narrative then focuses on Joseph, one of Jacob's sons. Joseph is favored by his father, causing resentment among his brothers. They sell him into slavery. Joseph is taken to Egypt. Despite hardship, Joseph rises to a position of authority. He interprets dreams and becomes responsible for managing resources during a famine. The famine affects many regions, including Jacob's household. Joseph's brothers travel to Egypt seeking food. After a series of events, Joseph reveals his identity. The family is reunited. Jacob and his household move to Egypt. Joseph provides for them. Genesis concludes with Jacob blessing his sons and speaking about their futures. Jacob dies and is buried in the Promised Land. Joseph also dies in Egypt, expressing confidence that God will one day bring his people back to the land promised to Abraham. The book of Genesis ends with these events, having traced the story from creation through the formation of a family that becomes a people. It establishes the foundational narrative of Scripture, presenting origins, covenant, promise, and continuity. The themes introduced in Genesis continue throughout the rest of the Bible, shaping the understanding of humanity's relationship with God across generations.